It's been a while. Sorry about that. I'm in Denmark. This is not Norway. This is Denmark. Very Danish looking. Okay, not really. This is just a national forest that's not far from where I now live. I'm not even that far in the forest, so basically on the edge over there is the road. I'm probably going to keep this really short because I am not doing well medically. Had a bit of an incident yesterday that I woke up at 6:30 in the morning with half of my mouth full of stomach acid. That's caused a lot of damage to my mouth and esophagus and a little bit to my lungs. So I don't have a very long-lasting voice at the moment. I'm doing much better today than I was previously, at least. This is the first time something like this has ever happened to me. But yeah, I've been living in Denmark for a little over a month now. Mentally, I'm still doing awful, if not slightly worse. I'm alive. Kitties are alive. My stuff did not all make it. I believe I had mentioned... I don't remember if I had mentioned this in the previous video. Well, previous video was a month before I moved. No, it was a week before I moved, right. Every aspect of my move has gone wrong in some manner, and that has continued even beyond, beyond that point. Bird. Yeah, everything's gone wrong, but I just wanted to give a quick yes, I'm alive update. Once more, apologize for not being able to be loud, or I wouldn't want to be loud here anyway. Hopefully this is audible. Okay, bye. Good getting again. So the last video that you saw was actually recorded a week ago. Turns out I was a lot more ill than I thought. That's a bit of an understatement. Long story short, at this point I've gone through the doctor at this point, and I just said this point. I've gone to the doctor. I've suffered through about a week of hell dealing with this, but long story short, I have a medical condition that can cause the valve that goes between my stomach and esophagus to weaken. And as a result of that, stomach acid comes up from my stomach, up through my esophagus. This is something that I've had for a very long time. Hold on, I'm crossing a major road and it's noisy. Look at that sky. Yeah, you wouldn't guess it's like 10 p.m. or anything. I may live further south than I used to, but I still live pretty darn far north. Anyway, so, yeah, I was saying, stomach acid comes up from my stomach, where it belongs, up through my esophagus. And this is a condition that I've had for a while. The main difference is that either one, the valve has considerably weakened compared to what it used to, which probably means I need to up my medication, and or two, there's something else going on. Trying to find a lesser populated area to do one of these recordings in has been a little difficult. Just looking for something a little quieter, but still has light. This should work for now. So yeah, most likely what's going on is option number 2, which is to say, stress. I have been under an absolutely ridiculous amount of stress lately. It's almost as though I had to be force relocated outside of the country that I planned on living for the rest of my life. So, not great. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Let's see. It might be a little too dark for you to see. But there's a bird on top of that lamp. The unlit lamp. Yeah, you can see the silhouette at the very least. Oh, I'm sorry, Burb. I did not mean to disturb you. Oh well. Anywho, So that's what caused the inciting incident. Then there was more. If only that was the only thing that happened. I damaged my lungs from this because the sheer amount of stomach acid, either some of the acid went into my lungs or the fumes from said stomach acid damaged my lungs. Either way, I ended up with, I believe I may have even mentioned it in the previous video. I probably should have watched that first. I ended up with bronchitis, and that was rough. I was coughing up phlegm until today. Today is Friday I want to say it's 19th? What does my phone say? 16th. So, yeah, I've been coughing up phlegm up until today. Today I'm actually doing fairly well. And have been all day. So, yeah. So, might as well talk for a bit because I want to stretch my legs and it's nice outside. It's actually been really nice outside almost the entire time I've been living here. So for reference, I believe it's currently 13 degrees, which is about, 55 Fahrenheit? I don't remember if it's actually 13 degrees or a little bit warmer, and my phone just neglected to tell me the actual temperature. But anyway, it is on the cooler end of shorts weather for me. And it has been bright and sunny almost every day I've lived here, which is a giant shock from living in Bergen, which, as I've mentioned several times, rains about 270 days a year. It has rained 2 days in the past month and a half that I've lived here. On the downside, part of that is because there's a massive drought going on in Northern Europe at the moment, and yeah, my nose has not been happy about the drought, even before all of the bronchitis crap. So, let's see. How has living in Denmark been? So, as mentioned, today's the 16th of May as I am recording this. That means that I have been living in Denmark for a month and 10 days. So I moved here on the 6th of April. Living in Denmark so far has been very expensive. That's been most of it. Let's see. I've mentioned that the move, every single aspect of the move has gone wrong in some major way. And that's not actually an exaggeration. I mean, to give you an idea of the types of crap that have gone on, when I was... Ooh, thank you, Light. If only I had my tripod with me. I briefly glanced to try to see if I can find it. I haven't. I know that I have it. It's just... whatchamacallit, I just didn't spot it when I left the house. So... I had paid for a moving service to pack my stuff and load it up in the truck and drive it to a ferry to drive over to Denmark. And when they arrived with the truck, I looked at the truck and went, that seems rather small. Pointed out to the main packer of the truck, not of the things, and he went, yeah, I agree. There's no way we're getting all of your stuff on that truck. So I ended up with 2 boats worth of things. Slow boat and fast boat. Fast boat arrived the day after I did, which is when we were expecting the boat to arrive. And then the slow boat arrived almost a month later. How is it that I always end up with a slow boat? So that was a major stumbling block. I had tried to make sure that certain essentials were in the fast boat stuff when I found out about the separation, only to find out that parts of things ended up mixed up in boats. And then it gets worse, because when all of the slow boat stuff arrived, which it arrived poorly, I had cleared out a large area in my living room for them to put boxes down and so on, which they proceeded to ignore and put boxes all throughout my hallways and kitchen, which meant that I couldn't actually move anything because I had no space to get down from the stairs. They didn't give me enough space in the landing well. I discovered things missing. And as Kreator, who is currently in my old apartment with their cat, as they found out, they just left behind things, like furniture. No idea why. I've contacted the moving company. They seem very confused. I've offered to send pictures. Yeah, we don't know. My in-laws will probably end up picking it up and driving it over here sometime by the end of the month, it sounds like. So it's not like I'm losing it forever or anything, but yeah, it's really annoying. Every aspect of the move has been like that. What else? I've actually shown up at the office for my employer that's in the city, which turns out my employer has an office in the city. More precisely, they have an office immediately outside of the city. It's a 20-minute walk from the nearest bus stop to get to the office building. And on top of it, it's not just that it's a walk with no sidewalks. That's how far out in the boonies this place is. The office building is in the middle of a farm. Weirdly enough, they don't have sidewalks. They do have bike paths. In fact, I'm on a bike path right now. Bike path. Aarhus seems to have bike paths everywhere, including having bike paths in places without sidewalks. It's a very novel concept for me. This section of Aarhus, it's Høberg. That is literally translated as high mountain. This is the highest point in Denmark. It's 170 meters above sea level, which is, about 500 feet? Denmark is a very flat country. Makes me feel like I'm back in Florida in that regard. Except this is actually more elevation than Florida has. What else? My apartment is not good. Turns out that it has a lie for a range. Range being stovetop. It looks like an induction range, and it's actually just a resistive coil electric range with a glass top. And the glass top is just in the identical style of a induction range, complete with stupid touchscreen controls. And so it's the worst of both worlds. It's awful. Our kitchen is a little difficult to navigate because it's very small. There's not enough space for much of anything. And then there's the electrical outlet situation. And lighting situation. So, lighting situation. So, every country in Europe seems to have their own rules or guidelines for apartment renting. For instance, I was told about Germany, where it's common to bring your carpets with you when you move. Which, that concept just completely baffles me. Wouldn't those be specific for an apartment size-wise? Anyway, Denmark, apparently, you bring your lights with you. What do I mean by lights? Outside of some built-in lights in the kitchen and lights in the bathrooms, there is no lighting in the entire apartment. Which we didn't realize because when we toured the apartment, it was noon. We weren't going to be turning on light switches because there was no reason to. So we never actually looked at it. So when Kreator moved in, because they arrived first, they basically didn't have any lights. A next door neighbor took pity on us and brought over like an old lamp. So Kreator would at least have a light in this very dark apartment. Then there's the electrical outlets. So Denmark uses a different electrical outlet standard than all of the rest of Northern Europe. And it's only Denmark that uses this standard. It looks like, hey editor me, go ahead and take a picture and put it over there. it looks like a little smiley face, which is cute, don't get me wrong. But these outlets are stupid. So many people. Like, I'm still not used to there being so many people around, especially this late at night. One, there are very few duplex outlets. They're usually simplex or single outlet. And two, while Denmark has all of these unique electrical outlets, they don't have appliances that plug into them. So the EU kind of forced Denmark, which Denmark is actually a part of the EU, so I do live in an EU country for once. The EU kind of forced Denmark to allow appliances that are Schuko-style outlets, or Schuko-style plugs, where they're compatible with both the French standard and the German standard, effectively. It's what's common all throughout Northern Europe. It's the only thing that you find in Norway, that type of thing, and it's what I'm used to. Norway uses the German standard for outlets, and the German standard actually makes a lot of sense. But those don't match the plugs for Denmark, because Denmark only started allowing, we're not talking about enforcing, just allowing non-Danish outlets in 2017. So all of these apartments have outlets that look like this, with appliances with plugs that look like that. Which sort of works. You can actually plug in a Schuko-style plug into a Danish outlet. You just don't get ground. So as a result, apparently it's really common for Danes to just shock themselves repeatedly on a tea kettle. So I have been buying grounding adapters, which convert from Schuko-style outlet to, or specifically French Schuko-style outlet, which is not as aesthetic, but whatever. I don't care that much about that, to Danish style. There have been a couple of problems with this, though. The first problem is that some of the plugs that we bought weren't adapters so much as permanent adapters. They actually had snakebite style plugs and grappled onto the outlet, or onto the plug. So as a result, I have some devices that are permanently damaged. I'm crossing the road again. So my standing freezer and my battery backup for my server both have those permanent outlet adapters stuck onto them. Ended up calling the company that I bought them from and basically going WTF. Well, not calling, literally visiting. They said, okay, let's take them, we'll look into it and get back to you. They got back to me and went, whoops, that wasn't supposed to be in the same bin, because the rest of the adapters that I had weren't like that. And basically told me, so how comfortable are you with rewiring things? So that is a weird reflection. Is it coming from my glasses, maybe? Like, whatever. So the solution's going to be that I have to pay an electrician to redo the cords on those two devices, and they'll pick up the tab for it. Except that I haven't been able to find an electrician willing to do it. On top of it, the snakebite style adapters don't work properly. They don't stay plugged in. It's like they're loose inside of the adapter itself. It's just awful. I do not know how to fix it. Honestly, I'm kind of tempted to try to just break one of the adapters open to see if I can rescue the plug underneath. But on top of that, it appears as though things aren't being grounded properly with those adapters anyway. At least my two surge protectors that I have that have a little light indicating whether they're grounded or not are telling me they're not grounded. So, fun! There's also not really that many outlets in the rooms. It's not that big of a deal, but it's a minor problem when... Problem number 3, surge protectors don't exist here. So it turns out that, and I found out about this last week, that Danish building code standards are that you have a whole house surge protector. And as a result of that being in place for many years at this point, you don't find surge protectors in stores at all. You can find plug strips, but not surge protectors. Which is fine, except usually the only way you find a plug strip with more than 3 outlets on it in Northern Europe is with a surge protector. I finally found some plug strips to buy that have 5 outlets on them. They're ludicrously huge for some reason. I think that was the same bird that I pointed out earlier. Must have followed me home. But, yeah. This has become a bit of a problem for, shall we say, my computer-dense environment. And it's been a challenge. Just like the fact that there's only 2 electrical outlets in my kitchen. 2 total, that is. And there's only 1 in each bathroom. So, razor, trimmer, and electric toothbrush are 3 devices, 1 outlet. And I don't feel comfortable putting a plug strip in a room with a bunch of running water for some reason. Luckily, the new outlets that are new plug strips that I bought actually have, was it IP44 rating? It's actually not that bad. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and go inside at this point. I've been yammering at you for 20 minutes on this recording. I'm going to guess a total of half an hour. So, no, that's right. I think the other one was 5 minutes. Anyway, yeah, that's at least part of my life update. Oh yeah, and I still haven't been paid this entire time. Nor do I have health insurance right now. I'll talk to you later, Internet. Bye. Hi, soon. I almost forgot to record you and your brother. I would be remiss if I were to do that. You can see just how much mess this house has right now. This is the room that they kind of drop things in, which is the reason why there's a cat tree in the middle of my kitchen. Or on one edge of my kitchen, I should say. And this was the hallway they basically stacked up. Was it like 3 or 4 boxes tall or something? I don't know. I have a picture of it. I don't feel like editing it in. The cats are, well, cats. Sometimes they've been ridiculously antagonistic over each other, probably due to the fact that there's only one route everywhere at the moment. And then sometimes they've curled up with each other. It's really weird. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed The Good Kittens. Bye.